But our language is not related to any other language in the world. So it makes it actually a lot more difficult to understand our language because we can't compare it to anything, any other language. The first thing I want to mention about our language is, as I stated, it is considered critically endangered by linguists, which basically means that it is on the brink of having no speakers left. So we actually only have around 20 fluent speakers of our language left, which is it's alarming. It's very serious, especially because as each year passes, we have a fluent speaker that is passing because most of our fluent speakers are over the age of 60 and older.
Mm.
So it's very serious. We've only ever had around maybe like 1,000 to 2,000 people in our population. So that in itself already makes it more difficult to revitalize our language because we already don't have a lot of people um, or people that originally spoke our language.
Yeah.
In the 60s, I think we had about 300 fluent speakers, but today we only have 20. So there's been a dramatic decrease.
Yeah.
Um, However, despite that, there are over 500 plus active learners who are trying to relearn our language, which I think is amazing.
It
Like it's
is.
so if I want to ask, are you hungry? I'm gonna say gin huas. Okay? Gin huas. Right. So huas is the verb for hungry. So huas is the most basic form that it can occur in, right? But
Hmm.
then when you say I'm hungry, you say hu nuasni. So huas then changes to nuasni. So the H changes to an N. That's just due to a specific rule in terms of um, the rule of when it's put into the sentence. And then ni is added at the end of the word. And that's to indicate that it is a statement. So that's just an example of how sometimes suffixes can work. We might add suffixes into a word to show that it's a statement or it's an occurring action. So things like that. And that's kind of when it gets kind of confusing. But that's essentially kind of how the suffixes work,
I
if
was
that
writing
makes
that
any
down as no,
sense.
I was writing it down as you were talking because I wanted to see like, and I just wrote it phonetically, but I wanted to get an idea of like how it changes. That's fascinating.
Hmm. There's a lot of different views around how we're supposed to do this.
Mm.
There's like, because so the Ktunaxa Nation, we have in total 6 bands. Like we have 6 communities in our nation. So we have
Okay.
4 in Canada and 2 in the United States. One band can't tell another band what to do with the funds that they get. So like some bands might prioritize language over other bands, for example.
I see.
So because of this, I would say like this is where a lot of like those debates start happening. And I would just say like not everybody is on the same page and not everybody agrees on how we should be revitalizing the language.
I see.
For me personally, like my philosophy with language is that it's not just language. Language encompasses our culture. It encompasses our identity. It's literally our entire way of life. It's how we understand the world around us. So I think for people not to prioritize language is like basically ignoring a huge part of who we are.
In your opinion, what do you think would be a logical next step to going from that baby talk to functional and fluent in Tunaha?
I think what we need more of is honestly language immersion. Like we need to be more immersed
Mm.
in our language. And I have I have seen the positive effects that language immersion can have. Like there are many examples from other communities doing language immersion called what they call language houses. So the Syilx people, the Okanagan people, they have a great example of the Syilx language house where they basically like go there and they only talk in the language. And if they don't know, you can't say any English. You just keep
Mm.
going on, right? Like you're
Mm.
always in the language. It doesn't matter if you don't know, you're still hearing it. And over time you will pick it up. So I think that's what we need more of in my community is that language immersion and just being in the language. It doesn't matter if you don't know it because you will eventually pick it up. I think like the word for sled, I think the word for sled is specifically like an adoption of like kind of almost like what it sounds like. So it's like woo woo.
Oh,
So yeah, so like that's kind of sometimes I think how the elders construct words. I think personally, like I think a cool project that we should do is developing like an urban dictionary
yes.
where you like we create a dictionary of like all these new like concepts and words and just like create a dictionary like in our language so that people can start using it. Like I've seen this happen in other indigenous communities where they've created like an urban dictionary of like new words and concepts and like slang and like put it into their language. And so I think that would be something cool that we should do because I mean, as society advances, our language does too.
Language is alive and
Mhm.
it has to breathe and it's going to change. So I love that idea of an urban dictionary. I think that
Yeah.
would be so much fun. As much as some people may not want to admit it, like it's very much a part of usage and how slang is constructed.
Mhm.
There's rules, so
Yes.
it should be documented.
How many languages do you know how to say hello in? Right? Probably many. Like, you probably know quite a few languages how to say hello. So why can't indigenous languages also be a part of that? Why can't you include how to say hello in different languages, right? Like here in Canada, we have many indigenous languages, but you go and ask people, do you know how to say hello in at least four different indigenous languages? They'll tell you no. So I think one way that people can start supporting us is by learning a greeting or a phrase of an indigenous community whose territory they live on, because that will be showing their support and it'll be showing that our languages are important to also learn.